Speaking of playoff matchups, did you guys catch OKC and Minnesota last night? Chet versus Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert was dominant. And it got me thinking, now that the Wolves are the 1 seed in the West, and I know it's early, but we're almost 20 games into the season now. It's almost 25% of the season. And they're the 1 seed. Guys, my question for you this week as we move away from the in-season tournament and start thinking about the playoffs, are the Wolves genuine championship contenders? I mean, we had high expectations for them last year after the Rudy Gobert trade. We thought this would be a team that would be able to manufacture regular season wins and would run into problems in the playoffs. It didn't work out that way. They had some clunky stuff. They had a lot of things that were out of their control even last season that caused them to struggle.
I mean, they didn't get a training camp with, I mean, the Cat Gobert pairing is weird, and they did not get a training camp.
They didn't get a chance to do anything. Yeah. And
it's been much better this year. Yeah.
Cat was hurt. But are the Wolves genuine championship contenders? Like, can we start patting them on the head like the Denver Nuggets of yore and saying, okay, I think you're pretty good. Now you get, should we be having some expectations of them?
Yeah.
They're good.
They're good. It's that simple. It's funny. I got a text from a friend of mine this morning going, Wolves kind of pesky. I'm like, no, not pesky. Good. They're good. Like, they're a good basketball team. Like, this is the deal there. It'll be interesting to see how they handle the Jaden McDaniels injury for a little bit. He's going to miss some time with a sprained ankle, but defensively, I mean, besides Rudy Gobert, who was absolutely, you're right, Dave, was dominant in that game last night with OKC. But Anthony Edwards is doing a great job on the perimeter. McDaniels, when he's healthy, they got a great game last night from Troy Brown Jr. Like, shocked me, but like they got an impressive night from him. Connolly's a strong, solid point guard. Cat's gonna knock down shots. Defense could be better, but like they got a lot. They got a lot of stuff to work with there. And at the end of the day, they have a go-to guy in Anthony Edwards. They got the star that you're kind of looking at. Like, they're good, man. Like, there's no reason to think some things have to break right. I wouldn't pick them to make it to the finals, but I don't think it wouldn't shock me at all if they make it to the conference finals. They got a lot of size, a lot of length. They got defense. They can score. Like, it wouldn't shock me.
The two things that worry me is they have to play two bigs. Just because of where, I mean, all their like talent. All the money, the talent and money they have locked up in Gobert and Towns and Reed means that they sort of, and one thing we've seen is having flexibility to try different things in the playoffs, and you wonder about that. And also, like, they're among their guys who you'd probably say are playoff playable. There's a lot of questionable shooting there. Between Kyle Anderson and McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, if he's sort of the back end of the rotation, and obviously Gobert. So you do wonder if in a playoff environment, how big those challenges become. But they also, I mean, if they do have better defense, especially at the point of attack in front of Rudy, than he ever had in Utah, I think.
Right.
That was going to be my next question. Like, does this version of the Minnesota Timberwolves, when you compare it to those Utah teams that Rudy took to the playoffs, we know the problems with those teams were point of attack defense. It forced Rudy off the court because they just needed to keep up on the offensive end because they couldn't defend. Will they be able to cover up enough for the deficiencies in Rudy's game that will absolutely be highlighted in the playoffs because teams they're going to target him. They're going to try to get him off the floor. Do they have the perimeter defense, Mo, to be able to cover up for that so that Rudy can stay on the floor? Because that's their best chance at winning, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do. I think that's the big difference with this team with Rudy than he had with the Utah teams. It's like, look, the Utah teams, at a certain point, they just stopped defending on the perimeter and depended on Rudy to make plays at the rim. Yeah. And that made it impossible for him to be everywhere. And teams are going to spread out. Like even last night's game, like Chet Holmgren's going to stretch and spread the floor there. That's a challenge for Rudy, and he pulls him away from the basket. Okay, now you have to make some tweaks and adjustments as a coach. Maybe you hide Rudy somewhere else or or whatnot, or things like that. But the fact that they got perimeter guys that can stop drives cold is pretty strong, and I think that matters a whole lot in terms of just their defensive stuff. Seth makes a great point in terms of his questions of their shooting and whatnot. But again, I think their defense kind of can cover up some of those situations where, like, yeah, we might not make threes, but we ain't letting you score. And I think
how do you feel though? How do you feel, Seth, about the shots that they're generating? I mean, like, look, it's a make or miss league, and we can talk about that till we're blue in the face. But if their process is good, I mean, these are NBA players, right? Like, I mean, the shots have a good enough chance of falling. And Kyle Anderson, like, he's not a great shooter, but if he's taking open looks when the defense is keyed in on Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, I mean, the job should be easier. I think that they might have enough. I mean, I'm not sure what it looks like as far as, can they maintain the 1 seed? Do they have to have home court advantage? Probably. I think that they look like a top 4 team in the West when you consider how the defense is.
I think
do they generate the right looks, Seth?
I almost don't really. I'm not gonna say I don't care what looks they're generating now. I think those looks change because, okay, well, Kyle Anderson, we're gonna gap him. All these things that will be different in a playoff environment with that preparation is sort of where I start to. I think it really. I've probably used too many words in saying that I think I worry about them being game planable in a postseason scenario.
Yeah.